in the chat space. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're logged in from, the country. We want to know the city you're in or town. It's really interesting stuff. But also feel free to network. This is actually a webinar. I think in a more casual way, if it was a physical meeting, then we would actually get to meet and, of course, network. So this is just a virtual form of it. So feel free to link up and make some notes, of course. So, I mean, that is what we are here to do. We are here to learn. Yes. As you can see in the chat space, our third guest speaker is about to begin. So without taking so much of our time, I think, may I suggest that I was going to say maybe one of our people just say something because as we wait for the other third speaker to come in, I didn't want us to begin without him. It's quite important that he's actually here. But in the meantime, I can invite one of us from actually one of our essayists. I'm seeing some on the call. Just want them to say hello. If you can actually turn on your video, it would be interesting. I'm inviting Jesse, just a word of like, hi, great with the people here. I think it is only familiar face I could see from the essay we just had about nuclear energy just a few months ago. And I think it's interesting. We go and celebrate these young individuals and young leaders emerging in Africa. And I think it's what is going to inform most of what we are going to be talking about in this discussion. So Jesse, let me just invite you for a minute, just say hello to people, give them that kind of warm welcome, kind of tell them the kind of experience they should expect when discussing nuclear energy. I mean, this should relate with what you actually had as an experience when you're writing about this interesting topic. Yes, Jesse, can you talk? If you can't, please, you feel free to text in the chat space and tell us that you're unable. But I'm doing all this to make sure our third speaker comes in and we begin.
Yes, Perez.
Yeah, please go ahead. You could just say what.
Thank you for hosting us. We are live in Kampala.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so definitely I'm expecting a very exciting session today about nuclear energy. And definitely for actually a bit of background, Replanet Africa is very big on the subject matter. So definitely they've done a lot of justice on that subject regarding the nuclear essay competition. They've had the Switch on Africa campaign that is on the backdrop, as well as a sea of so many other interventions, basically to ensure that we graduate from the poverty and all the challenges we're faced with as Africa. Very many of you, I think, concur that without energy, there is no development. Yeah. So that is a very mission critical topic that needs to be given a lot of attention, given that energy is directly commensurate with socioeconomic development, gender empowerment, food security, so many interlocking aspects. So nuclear energy is one of the contenders that help to bridge these deficits of energy that we are having, given that we are caught with climate change, we are caught with population explosion, we are caught with so many other dynamics that, in other words, uh, in other words, may be manifested that we don't have enough energy because Africa has a very rapidly growing population that will require even more energy. So it is very key to look at energy alternatives or energy mixes that have potential to actually where we are now. We need to not even leapfrog, but jump, to energy stability, energy that is affordable, and energy that is, reliable, and so that we can be able to piggyback on that and we pull ourselves out of poverty. Otherwise, on top of just energy, nuclear has, synergistic relationships with, so many other industries like agriculture. Those of you who have gone for those scans in hospitals and stuff like that, and so many other, synergetic and symbiotic relationships with so many other sectors. So I think by the time our panelists start deep diving into the subject, we shall be really looking forward to hearing more from them from a technical perspective. Otherwise, thanks, Perez, for hosting us.
Yes, thank you so much, Jesse. And I think I mean, I've seen Zoom has introduced these emojis. You really deserve a clap, even a physical one. But this is quite interesting. And when you hear Jesus speak, I think most importantly, what we need to note is not to wonder how he emerged among the best essayists during the competition. When you see what he talks about energy, especially nuclear energy, and the interlinking disciplines, whether development, whether, even livelihoods, bettering them. Just like he said, it is trying to bring us into making lives better. So I think this is actually what made him the best. And I think at this point, we are going to welcome a video that is going to be played I mean, it's already shown on the screen. I think we can actually look at it. Yeah, please feel free to go ahead and let's have a look at what they're showing us. Yeah.
As we look around, we see the challenges that our communities face. Frequent blackouts, the staggering cost of electricity, and the heartbreaking reality in rural areas. The struggle is even more profound, with many more households lacking any form of lighting and the use of firewood for cooking, contributing to deforestation, endangering women's health and children's health due to indoor air pollution and open fires. We refuse to accept this as our fate. We refuse to stand by while our rainforests diminish and our people suffer the consequences. Today we say enough is enough. It is time to switch on Africa, not with fossil fuels, but with clean, sustainable energy from every available source.
All right, thank you so much. A clap from me. What you looked at right there was our launch, which we had at the beginning of this month here in Kampala. We were launching a Switch on Africa campaign. And just like you saw the headline word, enough is enough. I think we've had enough of the blackouts. We've had enough of the darkness in Africa. And this campaign speaks to, ending all that and trying to give every African a chance to a better life. And this is really, really interesting. I think we are not going to wait longer. At this point, I'm going to, of course, introduce our guests, our speakers. Please, if you haven't been following us, our platforms are available on social media, but also the link to our website. You can always follow up and see what's happening around us, and you'll be a part of us in all ways. We really appreciate you for coming, and I'm going to be introducing our speakers right away. I'm beginning with Cynthia Wachuka. Cynthia Wachuka is a hydrologist at the Regional Center of Groundwater Resources Education, Training and Research, and is in charge of investigating surface water resources and the interaction with groundwater. Formerly, she was a hydrologist at IGAD, Climate Prediction and Application Center. Her duties entailed climate data and information application in research projects related to water availability and climate change vulnerability. So that is the Resources Education and Training Research is a state corporation under the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, mandated to initiate and conduct research in mapping and assessment of aquifer systems for management, conservation, protection, development, and governance of groundwater resources, and is also the only institution in Kenya applying nuclear techniques in water resources research management. And I think this kind of introduction, especially this profile of this guest speaker, speaks to what Jesse was talking about, that enormous way nuclear energy is actually making our lives better. Then also we have another speaker by the names of Mercy Nandutu. Mercy Nandutu is also from she's actually from Uganda. I'm trying to load her profile here. That's why it's taking. So she's a nuclear engineer by profession, born and raised in Uganda, and currently working with Dr. Kira Tokihiro on a project to determine the emergency planning zone for small modular reactors. She's also pursuing a master's degree in nuclear engineering with the support from the International Advisory Council on Energy. Marie Sklo, that is a really serious one, but she's in a fellowship program also relating to that. Prior to that, she graduated with a master's degree in nuclear power plant engineering. That was in South Korea, and she's also actually passionate about clean energy. I think this is really interesting. This is actually all driven by passion, and I like to really relate with our speakers. It's really interesting. We also have our third speaker who is going to be joining us. I'm not sure if he's already here. I need to be notified once he's here. He's a former president of the African Young Generation in Nuclear and a member of the South African Youth Nuclear Professional Nuclear Society. That's how it's written here, and works with ESCOM as a nuclear physicist. So without taking so much of our time, I think I'm going to ask our speakers to turn on their videos and also ask whoever has hosting powers kind of try to pin us on the screen so that we are able to our speakers, our guests, especially our participants, are able to look at us well, but also have us in a way we can actually have this meeting understanding each other. So you're welcome, please. As they do that. So please let's make that happen. It's really important. I think Cynthia, feel free to turn on your video too. I would like to see you. Nice to meet you. I mean, this is actually so good if I can look at you and talk to you. This is the interesting bit with technology, and nuclear has a different concept, and new things also brings on the table. And since we are living in the world of innovation, I think, but also embracing new things, things that are not native to us, things that scare us or something. But in this discussion, we shall be discussing a pertinent topic to our tradition here in Africa. We are talking about perceptions of nuclear. We are talking about the acceptance of this kind of energy. We are talking about its future here on the continent. And this is what I was talking about, speaking to our origin, to some of those fears that we actually have. So we want to understand in this discussion, what are those perceptions in our communities? We want to understand what are those things that actually we can speak to make people accept this kind of energy. But also we want to look at what future does this energy have here, and what can we look at as that thing we are moving towards, especially in this campaign, Switch on Africa, when we are saying enough is enough. So we want to look at the future that we are trying to project in this campaign, but also what nuclear energy brings as a new concept here. And as I think our host is trying to figure that out, we are going to begin the discussion right away. I think we've really delayed a lot. And I'm going to begin with Mercy Nandutu. She's just going to tell us, of course, with our participants, and just speak to us something about what are those common perceptions that you've had from your community? What are those myths about nuclear that you've had growing up? And I like to actually, when I was reading on your profile, formerly when I was doing a background, about you, I saw you really came from a good community, community where actually I think you tell us that story that you had. What are those myths that you grew up hearing about nuclear energy, even before you became passionate? We don't want to have made you passionate, but I think we shall come to that at a later time. But the common myth that you've had about nuclear in your community growing up. You're welcome, Mercy.
Hi everyone. My name is Mercy Nandutu, and I am tuning in from Canada. I'm doing a master's degree in nuclear engineering, and I'm also doing research with my professor on small modular reactors, and I'm going to correct Perez. I just heard about nuclear when I was in my 20s, so so it's not that I have heard about misconceptions when I was growing up because I joined the nuclear industry in 2018. That's when I discovered what an atom can actually do, and that really made me curious, and I really needed to seek more information and actually like embark on a career in the nuclear industry. So I was born and raised in Uganda, and um, before joining the nuclear industry, I did a bachelor's degree in physics from Makerere University. And getting to learn about nuclear industry, I got to do an internship with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Uganda, where they have the nuclear energy department that is promoting the peaceful uses of nuclear energy and everything that happens in the country that is nuclear related. Without wasting so much time, I'm going to talk about a few misconceptions about nuclear power in Africa. And one of them is the fear of another Fukushima happening, or Chernobyl, or TMI. Those are the major accidents in the nuclear industry that when you say that you're doing nuclear engineering, everyone just thinks about an accident happening. Yeah, we know that we've had those in the past, but the nuclear engineers are working so hard to ensure that nuclear energy is safe. And the technologies that are being developed these days, they have so many safety systems and redundant systems that help in case of an accident. And by the time it gets to you, then it's out of hand. But we take care of it within the reactor. Sometimes you don't even get to know about it. So another thing is the fact that some people believe that a nuclear reactor can explode the way a nuclear bomb explodes. That is not true, because in nuclear reactors that produce electricity, we use low enriched uranium, and even if it's like it happened to explode, we would not get the same like effects that arise from a bomb, because a bomb uses very, very highly enriched uranium, and that is very dangerous. And another misconception is that energy from nuclear is very expensive. The only expensive bit is the initial capital, because of the many things that take place when you want to develop a reactor. You have to do the feasibility studies, you have to train people, so you're going to actually incur more costs. But in the long run, electricity is actually much, much cheaper. And also some people believe that nuclear is a first world kind of technology. That is not true, because we have countries in Africa that are actually embracing nuclear. We have Egypt, it's already constructing a nuclear power plant with Rosatom, and that is good progress for the African community. And also the issue of safety, I've addressed that already. Nuclear is very safe, it is very clean, and you don't have to be scared about nuclear energy. You just have to embrace the benefits that come from it. It's actually good for you. And the risk of nuclear weapons, I understand people getting scared about nuclear weapons, but these countries have signed agreements with the International Atomic Energy Agency to actually use nuclear energy for only peaceful purposes, and there's no way they're going to terminate that agreement by using nuclear for nuclear weapons. So that shouldn't be an issue to worry about, because we have all these organizations that are working so hard that nuclear is actually used for only peaceful purposes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
this is
so
interesting.
much.
It's interesting. I really like the list of all these fears. Oh wow, this is interesting. Now I want to bring in Cynthia at this point.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, of course, if you really have any more misconceptions. You would maybe give us just one or two that you've had in the community. But what I want to ask from you is how do you think we could package some of this information? How can we influence the public perception about nuclear to make them actually pick up the right information about nuclear? Like she was mentioning, she's saying it's safe. So how can we package this? How can we influence this mindset and kind of change it to the right course? What do you think, Cynthia, would be the right way to do so?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be a panelist in this particular Zoom meeting. It's quite a privilege. And equally, maybe to give a background of myself, as Nandutu has, is I grew up, well, there are those misconceptions, especially as a result of what happened in Japan. And also the fact that even at present, the war that we have between Ukraine and the other country, but my background majorly, I didn't have much information on that until I joined this institution in the year 2021. And I really got exposed when it comes to the application of now nuclear. And especially this is in the field of isotope hydrology and its application in terms of assessing water resources. But that said, going back to your question, I think what we can do, especially in terms of improving the understanding, is creating a public awareness. And I think this is very important, especially what Replanet organization is doing, bringing people together and raising that awareness, even among the public, to understand that indeed nuclear energy is not as harmful as it is thought to be. Again, people to also understand that there are a lot of regulations that are in place. And equally, in any operation, when it comes to a nuclear power, there are also standards that have to be met. And this, even the countries that have the plants, especially in the developed countries, they also have to conform to international standards and guidelines provided. So I think with that, it will really be very important, even as a country, as a continent going forward, to also bring in some of this education even to our curriculum, to also educate children from their younger years to appreciate the nuclear energy and what it can do to our planet, especially in terms of bringing in the clean energy. When it comes to maybe something that Nandutu didn't mention is that there's always a misunderstanding that nuclear power is not clean energy, especially to those people who are not much exposed. And I think it's a platform for us to inform, especially in the face of climate change, that this is actually the right way to go, because the emission from the nuclear powers is it's negligible. And if we are to address the climate crisis, this is the direction we should be taking. I think public awareness is very important, even what is happening at present in terms of capacity building sessions, conferences, making people aware from all platforms that we can get. Yes, I think that is what I would say.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's really interesting. It's interesting how you present this. And I want to invite you, Mercy. I saw you nodding when Cynthia was actually, submitting that. How do you think we can actually present a more balanced view to nuclear in Africa? How do you think we can present, adding to what Cynthia was just telling us?
One way that we can present a more balanced view is by actually giving the public facts. We need to bring in experts and tell them facts about nuclear energy. Do not just say nuclear energy is safe. Tell us how safe it is. And also the media. We need to use the media to publish the benefits of nuclear energy without making it so much about the nuclear weapons and all that. And we need to also educate people that there are other sources of radiation apart from nuclear energy. Some people think that cancer is caused from radiation sources that arise from only nuclear power plants, which is not true, because we have background radiation. Where you're seated, you're surrounded with radiation. We have electronics, they also emit radiation, and actually we use them every day. And why is it that when it comes to nuclear energy, people are so scared and afraid? We have numbers, because even the people that work in the industry, they have lived, like most people in the nuclear industry are in their 60s. How come they haven't died from radiation? So it's actually not true that nuclear is the sole contributor to the radiation doses. And also, the government needs to be committed. For example, I can give an example of my government. They are planning to go nuclear, but we don't even have nuclear courses in Uganda. If we want to train human capacity, we have to go abroad, and that is expensive. And so I would say that governments need to introduce nuclear programs in higher learning institutions so that kids can learn about it at an early age, not like some of us who learned about it in our 20s. So that can actually make a difference if someone gets to know about it at an early age. Thank you.
This is good. This is good. And I think facts speak really a lot when you say we need to present people with facts. We don't just say it is safe, but how safe is it? And I think it would also be interesting. You're saying there already people have been working these plants and they're already in their 60s, 70s. This is really interesting. I think people need to actually know some of these stories. And at this point, I want to invite Cynthia. This is something that's been posted in the chat space, and it said that the radiation from nuclear is negligible. So for a layman, what is radiation in this case? What is this radiation we're talking about? But also, I think Mercy was actually trying to talk about something about how it affects human life, especially different radiations. So how do these get to affect us in the end, if at all someone gets exposed? But in the beginning, what is radiation? Just briefly, Cynthia.
Okay, I think, may I invite Nandutu to explain more about radiation now that she's in the engineering world, and I can address the isotope hydrology issue that has come up. Kindly.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Then
Mercy,
please
go ahead. Yeah.
Mercy. Of course, I was coming to Mercy because Mercy mentioned something about other different radiations, and I think it would also be nice for people to understand where can we actually meet this other radiation and where does it emanate from. So, Mercy.
I know that I have a diverse audience, and I'm gonna make it as simple as possible. Radiation is simply energy that travels through space, and it originates from a certain source, and these sources are radioactive sources. We have so many naturally occurring sources, for example, uranium, potassium, thorium, and so forth and so forth. So many elements that you find on the periodic table, most of them emit a certain level of radiation. And the other question was the other sources. Oh, radiation can, like we have the cosmic radiation, which happens from the background, that is radon, and from the sun. We also have radiation that comes from artificial sources, for example, medical practices. When you go for like cancer treatment and you're exposed to radiation, you're going to get a certain dose. We have also occupational sources, for example, the people who work in the plant, the people who work in the in the medical physics world, they're also exposed to a certain level of radiation. And also the things you pass through the baggage scanners at the airport, it is also a source of radiation. And so many other things that I can mention, but that's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So thank you so much. Now, at this point, I mean, we shall come to the questions from our participants at a later time. But let's just proceed to understanding. So, from your experience, I know you've joined this this whole nuclear energy field just recently, Cynthia. But from the looks of things, from how you apply it in your at your workplace, do you think Africa is ready? Do you think we are ready as a continent to actually embrace this technology? You heard from Mercy, she was saying that this is actually said to be one for the developed countries and not for Africans. But do you think we are ready for it?
Sure, I'll say yes. Africa is very ready. And they're not only ready, but I would say already, yes, I think to justify is that some of us in various countries are already utilizing or applying nuclear energy in our different fields. An example is us in water. We are actually already using it. And I think one thing that is commendable is that there's a lot of technical support from the IEA, that is the International Atomic Energy Agency, through the respective government in the Africa continent, and they've really supported in a very wide scope. It is in the field of water that I am in. It is in the field of medicine. I think maybe a case of Kenya, there's a lot of donations also from IEA, especially in terms of cancer treatment, a program called Rays of Hope. There's also a lot of application when it comes to agricultural sector, energy sector. So especially talking from maybe in my own country perspective, I think we're already applying nuclear in different fields. We might not have the nuclear plant with us, but its application is already being seen. And maybe another country that I would mention, I think we have maybe representative from here. I think Ghana is equally taking up. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence when saying, yes, we are ready and you're already applying. Yeah. So maybe the nuclear, the installation and establishment of a nuclear plant is the one that is missing. But in terms of the applicability of nuclear science in the various fields, indeed, it is already there. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Mercy was excited at how you began answering this question, but I'm going to pose the same question to you and provide rather a different justification, but also walk into what benefits Africa stands to get out of embracing this energy. Mercy.
Africa stands to benefit. What did you say?
Are we ready? Are we ready? I want you to first say
that. Okay. I would say yes and no. Yes, because of all the reasons Cynthia said. We are ready to use it in medicine. We are ready to use it in agriculture. We are ready to use it in water. We are ready to use it in industry. But are we ready for nuclear power? No, we are not. Because if it's Egypt and South Africa so for example, Egypt right now is constructing a nuclear power plant, and we actually applaud them for that. That's a very big step, and it shows a lot of government commitment. And South Africa has been operating a plant for many years now. Ghana has a research reactor, and I think Nigeria has one too. But how about the other 52 nations? What are we doing? In my country, we have 22 nuclear experts. And in a nuclear power plant, we need from 500 to 800 employees to actually run a plant. So I say no, because I do not think we have the human capacity that is needed to operate a plant. And we also do not have the funds, which is true, because we are in debt. And nuclear power needs a very high initial capital cost. And yeah, and also the thing that I mentioned earlier about education, it all starts by teaching people. We cannot do things that we do not know unless we learn how to do them. In Makerere University, we have a course called Bachelor of Science in Physics, and they have one course unit called Nuclear Physics. But what do they teach? They just teach you about the basics. I attended that course and I had a 96-page book, but it never even got halfway. It just gave you the tip. And nuclear is very huge. You cannot just tell me that define nuclear physics, define the atom, and that is it. No. So we need to establish programs. Like education is really paramount if we're going to do this. And yeah, what was the other question?
No, the other question was about what we stand to benefit. But thank you so much for that. And you take me back to what Cynthia was saying. She says we actually need to do education on a large scale, especially in the curriculum. And I think that speaks a lot, and we need to really pick on this from these discussions. These discussions actually give us some of these ideas, and they're so good. They need to be, propagated to the other people actually responsible for this implementation. So I'm going to pose this question like I'd asked you, what benefits we stand to benefit? Of course, we've already seen the medical field, we've already seen in water, we've already seen the energy, we've already seen even here in agriculture, where I'm here in Uganda. So what do we stand to benefit as Africa in embracing this tech? Please go ahead, Nandutu, and I'll be welcoming Cynthia to also tell us what she thinks we stand to benefit as a continent. You can begin domestically, but also at the continent level, please.
The biggest benefit of all is to fight energy poverty. I know that I have numbers for my country. 58% do not actually have access to electricity. And we know that implies that low quality life. We don't have, like, for example, in school, people don't have electricity, so they do not have access to computers and modern education. And it's very hard to learn from such an environment. And as a person who actually learned from such a school, it's not the best experience ever. And the other benefit is that Africa stands to economically develop, because with nuclear means that we have a reliable and stable source of energy, and then this can enhance industrialization, and that means more people are going to get employed through all these jobs that will be created with the nuclear industry, and also will be contributing to clean energy, and that means that we are fighting the problem of climate change. And also another benefit of nuclear energy that Africa stands to get is regional collaboration. If I have a nuclear power plant in Uganda, it means that everything pertaining that nuclear reactor also affects my neighbors, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Sudan, because without regional collaboration, it doesn't just work out, because a nuclear accident in Uganda is a nuclear accident in Africa. So if we embrace nuclear energy, it's going to enhance regional collaboration, and with regional collaboration, we're going to develop not as a country, but as a continent. And I feel like that's good for Africa.
Yes, indeed. It's really interesting. And I really like, this energy poverty thing. We really need to fight this out. And, because, growing up with such experiences, we really want to see a new Africa. What do you think, Cynthia? What do we stand to benefit as a continent?
Yeah, in a big way. From the benefit we already are enjoying, maybe talking from the position that I am, we stand a chance to upscale, for example. And I think upscaling will be in very many ways. It will also create a lot of opportunities for training. I think some are already happening, but Nandutu left and for Canada to seek education, especially on nuclear matters, with Africa embracing nuclear, we'll also have very many opportunities, even in our universities, to bring in courses related to that. And in a broad perspective, this will also result to creation of employment in a very big way, improvement of livelihoods and all. In terms of, for example, the application of now the science itself in the different fields. For example, in water, it will result to better management of water. When it comes to agriculture, it will also resort to efficiency, even in terms of water usage when it comes to agricultural issues. When it comes to the medicine world, if we upscale, there's a lot of equipment that are geared toward treatment of cancer. So that means a better and healthier nation and healthier residents within Africa. So I think we really stand to benefit in a very, very, very great way. And I think maybe from our experience, we really receive a lot of support from the IEA. And us embracing that will mean more support from them, more support even in terms of equipment to conduct the different exercises we need towards management in the various fields that we have. So we really stand to benefit in a very, very great way. And I think the other thing, especially when it comes to limitation in terms of mitigating against climate change, it will also go a long way in terms of in improving our air quality status in Africa. So when we look at the advantages and the disadvantages that are there, that are majorly driven by the misconceptions, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
Yes, interesting, Cynthia. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed, I can only imagine today when I was traveling on one of the mains here, I could see a lot of dust and a lot of smoke, all over. You're moving and you're seeing all those fumes coming out of wherever. But I think it makes perfect sense. I also want to note that our other guest speaker should have joined us by now. I don't know if he's around. But as we still wait, I really wanted his perspective on. I've seen a lots of blogs about what he has done, and it's really interesting. There are so many things I wanted him to also enlighten us about. But this webinar is also co-hosted with the African youth in nuclear. Is it how we are calling ourselves? So African Young Generation in Nuclear. Yes.
Yeah.
So we really need to. When I say still youth and young, I mean that's quite the same. But this is really an interesting discussion. Now let's move on to understanding other forms of energy, renewable energy. We are speaking in this campaign. We are trying to interlink all other renewable energies to come into this energy mix, but also, of course, championing nuclear energy. So we want to see what role renewable energy can play. Renewable energies, the different energy could be wind, it could be solar, what they could be in creating a sustainable and diverse energy mix in Africa. So we want to see the role these energies can actually play about. And I think I want to continue with this, Cynthia, on this. What do you think could be the role these renewable energies could actually play coming into the energy mix in Africa? How do you see that Africa?
By renewable, I suppose you're talking about the wind, solar, and hydro, right?
Yes. Right.
Yeah, I think majority of African countries have already adopted one or two, or even the three, or the major renewable energies. Speaking maybe for Kenya, we already have hydro, wind, and also solar. And I think the utilization, I think, is large scale at the moment. We wouldn't, it's a renewable resource, I think combining it with nuclear energy, they complement each other. So we cannot rule the renewable out and bring in the nuclear. So I think the two complement each other. And I think maybe the other thing we need to understand is that while nuclear energy is sometimes maybe referred to as renewable, sometimes it's not renewable because we have to source for uranium. And if we exhaust the various mines where we source that uranium, we'll no longer talk of nuclear. So I think we need to the two, both the renewable and the nuclear complement each other. So I think we'll need the renewable, especially towards efficiency in terms of electricity coverage in the different nations within Africa. We cannot do away with renewable. Again, when we also look at the cost of establishing a plant and the cost of running the renewable sources, in a way, especially in an African context, they are way cheaper compared to nuclear. So I think the two complement each other.
Yes, interesting. And I like the clarity that actually this is a clean energy and rather not renewable. Mercy, what do you think? Complementing, bringing these renewables into an energy mix, what do we stand to benefit?
Obviously,
what does it mean? Yeah. Go ahead.
It's always good to have more than one source, be it income, be it what. It's always good to always have more than one source. And the way nuclear and renewable energy complement each other is that they contribute to energy diversification. So in case maybe, in case like in case of solar and wind, we benefit like it depends on the weather conditions, if it is sunny or we have the wind. So if we are using both nuclear and renewable sources, in case the weather is favorable, we can pause on the nuclear and use the renewable sources. And also it's good for optimizing our energy sources. And this can actually lead to cost-effective transitioning to lowering green gas emissions, because if you're using renewable and nuclear, you don't have to worry about costs of eliminating greenhouse gases in the climate, because it's just fighting for it naturally. The work is less when you're using nuclear and renewable sources. But as Cynthia said, it's about complementing each other. The two work very well together, and introducing nuclear power to the energy mix doesn't mean that we are going to eliminate the renewables. No, we're going to just work with all the sources to ensure that we eliminate the fossil fuels that contribute to high gas emissions, and ensuring that we have clean air in our climate. Thank you.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, you're reading something. Anyway, thank you so much.
Sorry, someone just sent a message. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Zoom.
I'm even excited because right now we are jumping onto this other part of the discussion. Our participants are actually quite active today. And when you look in the chat space, there are so many questions they are shooting at you. So we need to just look at a few. And we're going to begin with one we had looked at earlier, Cynthia. It was about you're a hydrologist. I think this is actually where you will need to literally just give us everything. How is isotope hydrology done? And does it expose water to radiation? I think that is really. I'm trying to simplify this so that our audiences are able to understand how this works and how are we actually exposing water to radiation? And even then what? Go ahead, please.
Okay, so isotope hydrology is a technique that utilizes nuclear science, and the essence is that the isotope from our chemistry basic, it has the different elements, the protons and whatever. But essentially, in this particular case, we utilize the technique, especially towards managing our water resources. So in this particular case, what we do, we will collect a sample of water. There are also techniques that you have to, there's a skill that you have to employ, especially when collecting that particular water, such that that water especially doesn't have a bubble. Okay, majorly, maybe I might go too much scientific, but essentially, as water goes through the different phases, this is the evaporation, condensation, and all, it loses some fingerprints that is in it. And with that, that's how we are able now to, majorly, isotope hydrology is tracing water. When we get that water from the rainfall, how does it transition to the rivers, to the groundwater, and everything? This is because it carries with it some fingerprints that you're able to identify. And as it transitions from one phase to the other, because of those fingerprints, we're able now to follow up on that particular water and now be able to know its source, the age matters, contamination, and all. So the isotope hydrology is an application of nuclear science where we are able now to take that particular sample of water using some machines. These days, we will expose it, yes, to radiation, but it is through the machine. So it doesn't have any human exposure as per se. So that particular water will be analyzed, and from the analysis, we can now be able to induce some information. So I hope I didn't become too much scientific, but we applied the technology itself to be able to better manage our waters. This is because it will tell us the age of water, the source of water, and from that information, we can be able to know probably the waters we are using. Are they from recent rainfall? Are they from old waters and all such kind of things. Again, maybe to mention is that Mercy had talked about the radioactive and all. So in terms of isotopes, we have stable isotopes and we also have radioactive. Equally in water, the application can be both. We could use stable isotopes and also radioactive. And maybe radioactive, if majority can relate with the World War, there was especially the use of tritium. And using isotope hydrology, if we can be able to detect tritium in that particular water, we can probably be able to tell this particular water is, for example, of that particular age when we had the world wars. So I think that bit of application, we are able now to manage the waters and understand better our waters and prepare adequately, especially in the face of climate change. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't go too much into the into the science world.
I think you
We
really tried
forgive
to
you.
yes. You're saying something, Mercy?
No, I said we forgive her.
I don't know, but I think you really tried, Cynthia, for sure. You tried to be as simple as you could. I mean, how otherwise would you say isotope? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the English can actually give us a kind of other word we could have, but I really understand and like that. And someone wonders how diverse this application in the water sector is in Africa. And I think they just mentioned it, if not, then what's the problem? So me, I would think and want to understand how diverse is this application in Africa. Cynthia.
Okay, its application, I might, but I can pinpoint. I know Ghana is in, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Malawi. There are some countries, and this is majorly after association with maybe during conferences or during other meetings, and you have had an opportunity to interact with people from those particular institutions. So there is quite a number of applications, even in our neighbor Ethiopia here.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting. So someone wonders that South Africa and Egypt are long way gone. Now I'm asking you, Nandutu, please just try to be brief. These people just need something, answered to their questions. So they're saying when we're in other countries, but I think we need to understand, why do you think certain countries are far ahead, others are just beginning, others are not even aware of what's going on? Why do you think would be the problem? Just briefly, I mean, this is quite a policy issue or question, but why do you think is a problem? Must just try to be brief?
I stand to be corrected if it's not true, but in my opinion, I think it all goes back to the government. The government needs to be committed to this industry if they want to see it work. If the government is not committed, the public is not going to embrace whatever they want to introduce to the public. So it all goes back to policymakers, decision makers, the parliament. Instead of buying new cars, promote clean energy sources, and people will actually buy that. But what are our leaders doing in parliament? We don't know. So, so yeah, it actually goes back to government commitment, because nuclear is solely a government issue, and Mercy alone cannot make it happen. The government has to support Mercy to make nuclear work in Uganda. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, that's simply it, I think. I also
Yeah,
think.
that is it.
But anyway, thank you so much, Mercy. Those are some of the questions we're picking on from here. As we conclude, of course, we are coming to the end of this session. I think we are going to just for a few minutes in the next hour. But there was someone who was, I think this one needs first clarified. Where is Taita Taveta County? Which country is that? Does anyone know? Do you know where
Which country?
it's a county called Taita Taveta, but you know where that is, India?
Taita.
Yes, it's in Kenya in the, yes, I know that. Yeah, it's one of our counties in Kenya.
Indeed, I think please just tell him how best can they put this water to good use and support youth and women in this area. I think it's quite an interesting one. It's just wondering, and these are some of the things we really like to invoke. Please, Cynthia, how can they go about this? I think it's just invoked by the idea of how we're using nuclear in water and all that. I think they want to understand if this could be another way to venture into that and how this water benefits youth and women in this community.
Yeah, I think maybe in Kenya, to explain, you have two levels of the government. We have the national and the county government. So Taita Taveta is one of the counties and also has a leadership at the county level. But for this particular spring, I think maybe it's a spring we visited prior. We've been in the area as an institution, and we understand a number of water sources and try to map some water, the waters in the county. So I think when it comes to the conservation of that particular spring, I don't know, I might not know the name, but I think there has been a lot of effort, both at national and at the county level, to protect these particular spring sources. And protection also comes even in terms of provision of some storage facilities, or even utilizing that particular water for water supply in the area. So in terms of the question that it produces that gallons per second and water going to waste, I think this is an opportunity for the county, and especially through the water service providers, to tap on this particular water and make use of it for water supply to the residents of the county.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Cynthia, thank you so much. And I think as we conclude, this one is asking something about why is Africa still energy insufficient? I think this is a question we shall leave to Sadiq. Really, the answers could be around there with you. But also our speakers spoke some things about that. And I think that is why we are also bringing in nuclear energy in this mix, and to make sure it's actually sufficient. Now, as we conclude, I think this is our last question. I'm going to ask you our last question. Just about the different initiatives you probably could have come across that you're seeing across in Africa that could actually transform our region here. And then you give us the last one. And I think at this point we shall be concluding. I don't think there's any other question, but if you have any other question, please send them through. Our speakers will be picking on them, and we can always get your feedback later on. And now that we have your information, we shall always have this information mailed to you, and our speakers will be able to speak to you right in your mailbox. So what are those different projects, initiatives that are currently underway that you actually see in Africa that could transform our region here? If you could look at maybe in beyond isotope hydrology, are there other things probably you could have seen coming up in relation to nuclear that could actually transform our region, of course, in an energy sector? Cynthia, let me begin with you. I think Mercy has a lot to speak about the different projects. I think she has almost all data from Africa. Yes.
No, I don't.
Sure. And probably also allow me to respond to the question on the energy, the geothermal, and but maybe my brief response would be that this renewable are majorly climate reliant. And with climate change, there'll also be a lot of fluctuations. For example, solar is dependent on the solar energy. If solar is not there, we're in a rainfall season, the output will still be limiting. When it comes to our hydros, if the rainfall that we receive in any given country is not suffice, that will still have a consequence in terms of the energy production from the hydropowers. Okay, that said, in terms of the projects that are in Africa, I think, I don't know, I might want to speak in terms of Kenya. I think the institutional framework in Kenya, I think, is well defined. And when it comes to the nuclear power, I think we are still making strides towards a new nuclear power plant. We are still making strides towards its establishment. I might not want to authoritatively speak on the behalf of the responsible institution, but I think we are making good strides, which is a good move. However, probably from the point that I know or what I understand, especially in terms of matters water and what I might be exposed to, there are quite a number of projects that are there and upcoming, especially in the field of agriculture. And this is in the application of nuclear science. Water, we also have some, we also have quite a number. Also, when it comes to the health, I think that's actually something that I think is quite good in terms of also food security. I think there are quite a number. And probably from where I sit and the little that I know, these projects are majorly at international level and also at regional level. And these projects are majorly sponsored by the IEA. So the IEA is there offering majority of the funding, doing the infrastructural and the personnel capacity building, towards also upscaling the little efforts that the little penetration that has been there in terms of application of nuclear science in Africa. So the few countries that I've mentioned is probably the countries that I know are especially in that particular framework. So I would think I would speak on that, speak majorly on that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. And I hope those will also double as your last words. But yes, thank you so much. Let me invite, you want to say something, Cynthia? It's really okay.
No,
Just,
no.
oh.
Sure. I'm
Oh.
yes, thank you.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, Mercy. Just a few projects. I know if we just put up a list, just give you the whole day, you'll give us several projects across Africa. But we just need a few of those that we should look out for, initiatives and projects across Africa that you're thinking we should actually look out for going forward.
The ones that are in place or the ones you need to look out for?
The ones that are in place, currently underway, but also so that we have to look. Yeah, sure.
I love to talk from the Ugandan perspective, and before I left the country, I was affiliated with the Ministry of Energy, and they were actually working on a project to establish a center for nuclear science and technology. And then they said this is a 5-year project, and in that initiative, they hope to construct a research reactor so that they can do like instead of depending on imports, they can be able to produce the neutrons themselves. And also the Center for Nuclear Science and Technology will also work as a ground for higher learning so that they can stop sending people abroad and cutting on the costs that they spend on education. And another project that they did was an integrated nuclear infrastructure review with the International Atomic Energy Agency to assess whether the country is ready for nuclear power. And the International Atomic Energy Agency was actually impressed by what they have done so far. And that is really a good sign for Uganda and its nuclear power program. And another project that I learned about online is that Ghana is working with the US and Japan to establish small modular reactors. My research currently is focusing on small modular reactors, and I am so much interested in anything regarding that. So that's how I got to know that actually Ghana is working with the US and Japan to work on the small modular reactors in their country. So we also have projects relating to siting, like finding the site for the first nuclear power plant in Uganda. They've so far named one, and that is also good progress for the country. And that is what I can speak about confidently so far. And before I go, Africa as a nation, we need to work together if we want to see this nuclear industry succeed. For example, just in my opinion, I feel like African countries, for example, we have the East African community. That passport alone shouldn't connect us. We could construct a reactor in Uganda, but it's not Uganda owned. It's owned by the East African community, thereby cutting costs because different countries are coming together to actually raise resources for the first nuclear power plant. that is going to like lower the time that is going to be needed to raise the costs, and also the construction and training, because different people are coming together from different countries with a common goal. And that's it from me today. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on this
thank you for coming to speak to us. Thank you, Cynthia, for coming to speak to us.
I need to run to class now.
Please feel free, but we really appreciate your time. We appreciate your time. And
yeah, thank you so
really
much.
Nice. This was really interesting. I really would have loved us. Maybe we shall get some time to look at, how you get to jump into this. When I was reading your story, it was really interesting. I think I'm here to also read more about Cynthia, but this is really interesting work you're doing. We missed one of our panelists, and I think as one of the representatives from African youth in young generation in nuclear, a representative, as you prepare to just say something, we really want to appreciate you. And I think we can go on and have this discussion. And most of these are really going to be captured. I liked the way you ended with the regional power plant. That would really be an interesting one. I looked at the way you actually
something I thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a thing. It could be a thing, but really, it's an interesting one, and I really want to appreciate, of course, our guest speaker wasn't able to make it, but at least he was really prepared to be. I read a lot of the work he's doing. So thank you so much. I want to invite the representative from AYGN. Mm-hmm. Who is there? I hope really there's someone. Otherwise, this should be it. I would want to just, I would really want to appreciate you for coming. I think, Collins, you can kind of confirm directly immediately in the chat space.
Allah the Almighty.
I think that is not AYGN. So thank you so much for coming, our dear participants. Today was really an interesting discussion. We shall have a series of many more, especially in this campaign. We are trying to look at launching many more webinars, and we are trying to educate. I think more of what was mentioned by our guest speaker, sorry, is that we actually need to do some bit of public awareness. So most of these are going to be coming through monthly, and you should look out for them. And it's really interesting that actually you're going to, you can always follow us along, look at what's really happening here. We just launched a new program here, and we're calling it Switch on Africa, and we want you to join this. And this actually calls for you to come and take part and participate in this, and actually make this known to the communities. Otherwise, I want to appreciate you for coming. Thank you for our team at Planet Africa for organizing this. Thank you for our hosts, the African Young Generation in Nuclear, and the participants. All the questions that came through, really appreciate them. And yes, we would really like to ask you guys if you can turn on your cameras. We'd like to take one more last picture with you. You can actually make history here. You can just turn on your cameras. Feel free. We'll just take a picture, one last one, and I think we can be saying bye in that picture. Feel free. Yeah, but we are really trying to close it here. But the bye-bye is supposed to be the one that's captured with the, that smile, the excitement. Please don't just don't just put the hand. You can please feel free to smile a bit. Tim, I'm looking at you, you're not smiling, but we can actually just take one last picture for today. And I hope to see you in the coming month with our next webinar. Thank you so much. You have a lovely evening or day wherever you are.
Thank you too.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you, bye.
Thank you for moderating as well.